What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So something came up on Twitter just recently. I think I saw John Linneman's post. I actually made a comment on it, but he said an interesting thing I keep seeing regarding Starfield are people wishing they'd switch to Unreal Engine, but I feel like those folks have somehow missed the state of Unreal Engine games lately. Can you imagine what an Unreal Engine 4 based Starfield would have been? I only see issues. John is right. Now, I think he's misunderstanding Unreal Engine and Unreal Engine development expertise, game ambition and scale, and hardware limitations as well. I don't think he misunderstands that. I think he's probably just making it so simplified. But if you break it all down, these are the areas that actually cause these video games to actually have issues. Now, Jez Corden writes and says, if you see someone saying Starfield should have been an Unreal Engine, please mock them. I don't want to do that because I already did. I'm kind of petty like that. So I went ahead and wrote this before I even saw his comment. I said, they talk as if Unreal Engine 4 is an Instapot, throw all ingredients in, set the cook time to 5 years, and then the game comes out. Ladies and gentlemen, the armchair development that goes on Twitter, I have to say, okay, maybe say for the random person that's out there that doesn't really have an understanding on game development, possibly I have no issues. But I would recommend that you maybe go learn what these engines are about. But for the YouTubers, like Fextra Life, when he made that comment on Armored Core, that kind of got me to take a deep breath. Why? These guys eat from this thing, right? They make a living or a side living from this. So there's nothing stopping them to at least pick up a book and read about or watch a YouTube video to know a little bit about game development and become a better expert in their area, especially when their videos not only inform people, but educate people, because they could misinform people or miseducate them, because that's basically the implication of what it is that they may be doing when they say things like Armored Core looks dated. Then a reviewer writes in their review of Armored Core, it looks like it has graphics from the PS5 era. Here is the Rivian tech demo. I know you guys are probably wondering, like, what is this on the screen? This is Unreal Engine 5, by the way, but I wanted to go ahead and show this to you guys because I thought it was quite pertinent. This is the Rivian tech demo that they did just, in March of 2023, right? The one where they drove that Rivian car all over the place. You see it, right? This is, they were like, man, this is just so cool. You were looking at it, you were like, my God, I wish they could just make my favorite beautiful game in here, right? Well, here it is in Unreal Engine 5. I fired it up for you guys so that you could see yourself. You can download it for free. Unreal Engine, Epic Games does, some of the craziest stuff ever. So here's it. Here's a very detailed one. This is the most detailed one that requires a lot of high-end PC, application in regard to how you can actually do it. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the spot right here. Look at my FPS, guys. Look at my FPS in this area. My FPS is 46 FPS. This is a 4090. A Ryzen 9 5950X to be able to render this area here. So sure, you're going to do things like level streaming and all that stuff, but you can see how my FPS is tanking on a device like this, a device that not many people are going to have access to if they were to release a game using all of these features. So what's going on? Well, this is gonna need optimization if you want to use it for anything, right? Or if you want to build a world like this, is gonna need you to be able to optimize and so on and so forth. You would have to do some really interesting things. Some people are so used to these God of War, Sony Last of Us movie games that they don't really see the alchemy that the developers that make these games actually do. When I say alchemy, I mean, the trickery that they actually do in regard to that. So someone wrote here and said, it's clear with some of the systems and limitations with Starfield, and definitely some of the modeling and animation work that Bethesda needs to modernize their games. Whether it needs a new engine or not is completely besides the point. This is an armchair developer. They have no idea what they're talking about. Let me tell you why, because this is what you see on the internet. Everyone just sit there and does and they have no idea what they're saying. Animation and character modeling is basically detailed as much as you need your performance to be. You can detail your animation for your character models as good as you want. Bethesda has lowered its poly count, so they don't have all that detail that you see in like Kratos or like Peter Parker. Because Sony is going for that Peter Parker look because that's what they want. They want eye candy games. Bethesda, on the other hand, they want world immersion. So the characters usually are talking with you. Maybe they have their companion. So they don't really need that much detail because you can play, a game like Starfield, first person, third person, where you don't even see your character model. Or the enemy character models are quite basic in their movement and their animations. So their detail is a little less so that you can save room on performance. If a character throws a punch in a video game, that is cost. That punch is being run by your machine. Add that to AI, add that to environment, add that to other parameters, add that to lighting. All of that is starting to ask for more and more machine power from your device. Like this particular scene right here, it's asking me and saying, hey, I need juice. I need juice. All you're going to get is basically 40 FPS. Now, I get it. My GPU and CPU utilization is quite low here. I understand. But still, it's asking me to go in and do more work, maybe reposition some things, maybe reallocate some things. So this is all the science and alchemy of game development is. Some people also come in with a claim saying that Bethesda's engine, or even From Software's engine, like Fextra Life said when he did his Armored Core, one of his Armored Core previews, they say they're dated, they're old. In reality, your game engine doesn't go out of date unless you let it go out of date. You continue to upgrade and update your engine. CryEngine is still here. They've been updating and upgrading the engine for use all this while. If you go and look at an engine like Snowdrop, this is something that I think his name is Callie. I don't know how you say this name, but he says this. He says it's what the game needs that decides what goes into the engine. Why? Snowdrop has been used to make some really interesting range of games. Tom Clancy's The Division was their most flagship game that they made using the engine. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, which is a first-person aerial dynamic game. You can fight in the air. You can run on the ground. It's a big open world. It's very different in a sense from The Division and The Division 2. Mario Rabbids, I haven't played that. South Park, I haven't played that. Starlink, I haven't played that. Rocksmith, a rock style kind of game. Star Wars Outlaws is going to be this. Splinter Cell, I don't know which one exactly, and then XDefiant, an FPS shooter like a Call of Duty game. So over time, they've had to modify functionality on these engines to be able to create this vast range of video games that you're seeing. And I think Ubisoft is about to go full on Snowdrop because a lot of the investment that's gone into this engine is really interesting. So possibly you're going to see, say, a Far Cry game come out of here because Frontiers of Pandora is basically kind of a Far Cry style game. You also see people say things like, well, why is CD Projekt Red not investing in their engine? Why do they want to go to Unreal Engine 5? I think it could be because of support. If you think about it, the Red Engine, I think the Red Engine suffered at the onset of Cyberpunk with the lower console platforms, it's because they probably just didn't have enough staffing to do engine development and then do their games. If you're going to support engine development and do things like that, you have to have the big size and the scale to do it. Ubisoft it boasts about 17 to almost 20,000 employees across all of its studios. That's a lot of people, and many of them don't even touch video games. Some of them just work on Uplay. In Ubisoft Massive, they have about almost 800 developers. Many of them don't touch video games at all. Many of them in research and development. Many of them are working on other platforms, online servers, actually testing out different things that they could use for their video games, accessibility features, all of this stuff. That's what it takes to actually be able to support big platforms, big engines, and get games out that run at good, performances with big open worlds. Not many studios can actually bring all those resources to the table without actually breaking bank or maybe going bankrupt, or maybe it's a thing where their CEOs want to buy another plane, and so they just basically want to cut costs. So these are the dynamics that are going all over the place. The machines, that's your consoles, the PCs, all of the hardware limitation, all of what the software limitations also bring to the table as well. And another reason Unreal Engine also, in my mind, doesn't seem to appeal to a lot of developers too is, publishers is there's a 5% royalty after you sell your first $1 million. It's not profit of $1 million. It's when your title earns over $1 million. So once you make your first million, everything else you pay 5% royalty. It's a good deal. There's nothing wrong with it. But studios like, say, EA Studios that are not using, I said EA Studios, sorry, From Software and so on and so forth, they want to probably keep their profits to themselves. So why would they go ahead and get another game engine and then learn that game engine and then spend all that time in development when they already have an engine that they're used to, that they know, that they can actually add functionality to, rather than actually start from scratch? So for all those who may be saying this, it gets a little frustrating, but I would recommend that you take 3 hours or spread it out as much as you want and just get a good sense of what game engine development looks like and what video game development looks like and the whole picture. This will really help you to be able to sniff out the real charlatans in game development. you can see when a studio actually doesn't put in the work. Usually games like that are shallow, even though they have all the support that they need and they have all the funding. You can tell that the game is very shallow in its execution of its core, mechanics and so on and so forth. Then there are some games that just decide to go a different way, but then it's misjudged because everybody throws a blanket over those games. Avengers had a shallow mechanic because it was designed to sell you microtransactions. That's pretty much what it was. But then everybody judged Gotham Knights as pretty much the same game, even though Gotham Knights did not have microtransactions. People said, oh, you can tell this game was designed to have microtransactions. No, it wasn't. All the limitations already of the game, that's Gotham Knights, would have told you if you actually knew what game development was about. They developed a big fat open world in Unreal Engine 4 that was very detailed. That already destroyed a lot of the performance because that's what they were basically told to develop. Most developers don't pick out the games they develop. Their bosses tell them what to do, especially in the Warner Brothers ecosystem. Look at what the Batman Arkham developers have had to work on lately before leaving the studio. They worked on a Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League monetization-based game before they finally decided that they were leaving because they have a boss who's just all about the games as a service. That's a whole different conversation. But if you go ahead and look at that game very well, you will realize that that game was not designed for microtransactions. That game was not designed in a way that was, as hollow as Avengers. It was actually designed to have a full-blown experience, but that full-blown experience could never materialize with the hardware that they actually did have. So they decided they were going to make an RPG game, and then they just basically dropped everything out there for free. The model was not going to work with a game like Gotham Knights. It was just too complex to go ahead and build. And then if you wanted to start building on top of a game like that, you could not execute it in that kind of way. You'd have to have executed it like The Division. The Division is a game where it runs a lot of its processes on the server and some on your console. But Gotham Knights runs a lot more on your console, so it's already going to be very tasking. So learning this stuff is something that I recommend that everybody put their hands on doing. There's a reward in being diligent rather than being on Twitter and talking as if you know what you're saying and you don't know. And I understand, YouTubers, they say stuff, but even the YouTubers, I think many of them are responsible for a lot of the climate that we see in the gaming industry today. Because the internet is giving a lot of people a microphone and a camera. They just think they can say whatever without any consequences or without anything. And so I think it's just become a real big problem overall. But this is my take on the matter. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching the video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Peace out.